one thing I will say is while Legend Cavazos did go to IMG Academies originally from San Antonio, so I don't think that he necessarily has to just kind of limit his look within the Sunshine State. I think he could maybe look in the state of Texas. I think that there's some options there. Steve was exactly right in terms of the point of safety corner. He only picked up corner kind of late in terms of when he moved to IMG. He was a safety prior. Obviously, you look at corner and you look at the money that corners command, and guys want to be corners. Guys, that's just the way that situation is. It just happens. I mean, you get over the 85, and you're going to have to sit there and have hard conversations with guys. And while nobody wants to sit there and say, oh, this guy was driven out or that guy was driven out, guys are going to have very honest and frank conversations and say, look, you're in year 3 in the program and you're on the 4th team at this point, and what do you want to do about it? So best of luck to Bryson Shaw, best of luck to Legend Cavazos. We're going to be talking about at least 3 more names between now and whether it's summer or start of fall, whenever that hard limit kicks in. We're going to have to, those conversations are going to have to be there in terms of getting down to the 85. And, it's just, it's a business. It's show business, not show friends.
I always thought that was funny. Is there any shame in being a starting safety in the NFL, making $7 or $8 million a year, or for the player that has to face the harsh reality? You're not a shortstop. You're a second baseman. Again, you're starting second baseman in the major leagues. Is there anything wrong with this?
But you run into instances where guys like look at I don't know. Look at Reed Fragel. Reed Fragel wanted to be a tight end in the worst way. He was an offensive tackle. And he could have made a lot more money. By making that move sooner in his career, and it just kind of happens. You get sold a bill of goods to yourself that you think that you're this position and not that position. It's first world problems for sure. Whether or not you're making $6 million, you're making $13 million. Those are tax brackets I have nothing in common with.
Well, look at Sean Wade wanting to show that he could play outside corner, and look at what happened when he showed what he could do. And sure, he was a first-team All-American, but I think everybody watching him saw he was better in the slot than he was outside. And he ends up with, 5th-round draft pick eventually after being considered a top 10 pick coming into the season. So a lot of times, ego can get in there, but there is also the whole business aspect of it. You see yourself having that money, and a right tackle wants to be a left tackle, and defensive tackle, some think I could play defensive end in high school. They want to stay outside, and it's like, no, you're too slow, you're gonna have to move inside. And it's the process of, I guess, water finding its level in sports.
And I say I don't understand it. Of course I do. These guys have pride. They reached that level because of their athletic skill, but also because they've got egos and they think they're the best, and that there's a confidence factor there. You don't want to be told you're too slow, or you're not this, or you're not that. Kevin, at the same time, looking at this safety position, and this may be a bit of a leap for the optimistic Ohio State fan, but if a guy like Bryson Shaw is a starting safety one year and he can't even get mentioned in the rotation the next year, the A to B thought is that this defense must be a lot better.
Well, you have somebody new in charge who has, his ideas of what each position needs to be. So, it's somebody could work very well in one system and not work well in another system. And with Ohio State going to the 4-2-5, a 3 safety type of system with what Jim Knowles wants to employ, yeah, I think you can make both. You can leap to both conclusions at that point. That maybe it was a case of that the defense wasn't very good last year, but it's also a case of they're just going to be looking for different types of people to be in certain roles. So, they could have been. You're not going to be completely blowing up the defense if the defense wasn't substandard the year prior. That's just, how that's going to work. But, I don't know if I would sit there and say it's solely a case of that you can just go to that and say, well, that's why the defense was bad. No, the defense was bad last year because the defense was bad. I mean, I don't need to see Bryson Shaw moving on to another program to come to that conclusion. I watched all those games last year. I saw them give up 45 to Utah. I was just rewatching that game last week just for trying to get something put together on a piece coming up here soon. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
Well, CJ Stroud said himself yesterday that this defense is more difficult to face than last year's defense, and you don't know what you're going to get from look to look, as opposed to knowing last year and years before that what the pre-snap read was, and that there was no change post-snap, and so made it a lot easier on CJ Stroud last year. So imagine it made it much easier for the rest of the opponents as well. And now things are different, and that's a testament to the scheme, obviously, but I think just more focused on making life difficult for the offense and having more options. As Steve said, Bryson Shaw was the only option basically last year. They moved Ryan Watts from corner to see if he could get involved. They didn't like Lathan Ransom there. They didn't like Court Williams there. Obviously, you couldn't put a freshman there. So it was also, I guess, a recruiting issue as well when you don't have the depth there. And they were so reliant on Josh Proctor in that single high defense that once he was gone, they basically had to change everything because he was the only one that could do that. And when so much of your defense is hinging on one guy, you got to be careful with that. And we talked in the past about how important Jordan Fuller was to that defense, and replacing him was going to be key. And you saw they couldn't replace him, and so they had to change everything.